So we're coming up to the end of Michaelmas Term here at Oxford, which for Americans is a fancy way of saying the end of the fall semester or autumn term here in the UK. This Michaelmas has been 10 weeks of hardcore work, balancing my final year of my DPhil, Oxford's version of the PhD, with trying to put out weekly content on YouTube alongside working as a doctor from time to time. We tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a day, but underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. Bill Gates. My Oxford experience this year hasn't been one experience, but 10 weeks for me to work towards my goals, 10 different ways for me to try to achieve them with ADHD. It's a lot harder to procrastinate when you break down and chunk your calendar into small, manageable 7-day long segments. Procrastination is a manifestation of anxiety. By feeling more in control of my life, I've been able to procrastinate a lot less with ADHD at Oxford. I've been doing a lot of reflecting and gaining a lot of clarity to help me optimize my ADHD, and I share my thoughts on this channel. In this video, I'll consolidate and share 5 habits and strategies that I religiously implement in my life to make the most out of each week at Oxford with ADHD. If you find these helpful, then consider subscribing and turning your notifications on to stay up to date with my content. 1. Save my Sunday, save my week. Sunday is the most important day of the week. It's the most important day of the week for anyone with ADHD. We really need a 0 day to do any outstanding tasks, personal activities and life chores, and to importantly review our performance during the week and plan for the week ahead. The success and failure of my whole study week starts from my Sunday. I found throughout medical school and my PhD that when I miss my review day, I'm all over the place and my performance and consistency is massively hampered. I start to neglect other aspects of my life too. My ADHD means I have to do everything to stop any disruption to my workflow during the week. I have to have uninterrupted time to do deep work for my uni work and can't be distracted by life chores or things that don't help me move forward but which are important. So I like dealing with these tasks left in my in tray on my Sundays. This makes it sustainable for me and means I have less baggage going into the next week to simply focus on my study and work objectives. Sunday is my reset day. It's a buffer zone that I've created that helps me plan my entire life for the next week. I only take 1 week at a time since that's in my immediate control. I plan all my meals for the coming week, do all my shopping, reply to emails and do all my chores. I also take a broader view of all the work I hope to get done in the coming week. I always underestimate this to account for my time blindness with ADHD. I start with my Monday and plan the 3 things I really want to get done. I might be able to do more, but I only like to give myself 3 things to accomplish so I can sleep happier the next day. I also like to plan any activities or commitments I have in the coming week and add these to my calendar. I go through my calendar and do delegate or defer things that I can't do this week. Don't get me wrong, I'm still doing uni work on Sundays, but it's not a necessity and it makes up only a part of my day. Importantly, I always sleep early so I'm ready for the upcoming week. Keeping my 9 p.m. sleeping schedule is key to start my week right. 2. Sleeping fulfilled requires having a bedtime. I'll repeat again, sleeping fulfilled requires me to have a bedtime. In the past, if I felt I hadn't accomplished enough work or studied enough in my day, I'll totally lack discipline and make up for it by sleeping later in an attempt to salvage my day. But this had a knock-on effect on my mental health and reinforced my poor procrastination habits with ADHD. Since I can only accomplish so much in my day, I really need to be gentle with myself and set a cutoff for when I switch off from work. For me, what's really transformed my academic year at Oxford has been setting a bedtime. Since I have a bedtime now, which is 9 p.m, I've got only a short period of time to accomplish everything in. And since I've only set myself 3 things to accomplish, I can sleep fulfilled so long as I've accomplished those 3 things. But an important part of being disciplined is even if I'm not able to achieve my 3 things, I have to switch off and go to sleep. Having a bedtime forces me to think I only have 3 hours left till I have to switch off. I rarely ever work in the hour before bedtime, as that's when I plan for the next day, shower and wind down for bed. So I have even 1 fewer hours in the day. By planning the 3 things I want to accomplish the next day before I wind down for the day, it helps me switch off and put the day behind me. Sleeping and waking up at the same time daily is one of the most important habits I've built, so I can build a work routine and have time to relax and unwind. And it helps my procrastination and inattentiveness with ADHD by giving me a tangible daily deadline to work towards. I'll make a video soon on the technologies and gadgets I use to switch off an hour before bed and wake up at 5 am easily. I've made a video previously on how I wake up at 5 am every day at Oxford, so check that video out. Sleep concludes the day, but it's in fact the most important part of my day at Oxford, so get into the habit of sleeping and waking up at the same time and you'll be far more efficient during the working hours with ADHD. 3. You really are what you eat and drink. Growing up, my dad would always say, eat well, sleep well, work well, which after years of med school, I've finally learned that he was right all along. I have really bad IBS, which means I have to really watch what I eat to stop my bloating, stomach pains and reflux. In the past, I found that I'm least productive after a meal. I used to get very lazy and get the afternoon or post-dinner slump. It stopped me working productively and make me procrastinate as I'd struggle to sit down at my desk and work efficiently. I don't drink coffee, so I started to really think about how I could get over this slump and to keep my energy levels more consistent. What I found is that by having smaller portions and eating breakfast, lunch and dinner at the same time daily, I've been able to give my body time to configure to my caloric intake. I have breakfast a few hours after I wake up between 8 o'clock and 8:30 a.m. So for the first 3 hours of my day, I'm fasted and have clarity to work. I work best on an empty stomach, so this works for me. I then have my lunch from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. to avoid the busyness of the lunch hour. And then I always have my dinner early at 5:30 p.m. This means I have at least 3 hours for my last meal and sleeping to give time for my food to digest, work with clarity and sleep on an empty stomach. Throughout the day, I'll have fruit and drink my 2 liters to stop myself binging on junk, but that's something I'm still working on. An hour before I sleep, I'll have a half a cup of kawa to get ready for sleeping. ADHD and unhealthy eating is a real problem, and I'll make a few videos on this soon. Having regimented times for my meals helps me stay focused on my work and to segment my day. Working my life around my meals helps me stay focused on my university work. I always prepare my lunch the night before to give this the importance it deserves. I never sleep on a full stomach, and so I get better sleep and wake up hungry and ready to start my day. Getting rid of my social media addiction. I mentioned earlier how I need uninterrupted periods of time to really deep focus on my studies. I actively work in every part of my uni life at Oxford to reduce the risk of getting distracted, since I'm massively prone to this anyway with ADHD. I'm proud to say I probably spent less than 100 hours on Facebook during my entire 6 weeks of medical school and less than 5 hours during my entire time at Oxford. I also significantly limit my Twitter and Instagram time and only follow productive, meaningful things. I never watch any distracting content that might sway me away from my work or make me feel a certain emotion. Even on YouTube, I regularly block myself from watching certain channels. Throughout this year, I've probably spent less than 15 minutes a day on social media, and definitely not during work hours. I do this by turning off all notifications on my phone, using content blockers, clearing up my phone screen, and unfollowing or muting people whose content I don't want to see. This has made me infinitely happier, compare myself less to others, and importantly, have time to do uninterrupted work. My number one rule is if something isn't advancing my goals, I just don't do it. It's important to have this discipline with ADHD, and it's a great way I've stopped myself getting distracted from my goals. Cal Newport talks at length about the importance of deep work, and this is something that is heavily limited by social media. Just 1 hour of uninterrupted deep work with ADHD can make all the difference to my uni day, and I for one am not going to let external factors distract me or take my eye off the ball. If you want me to make a more comprehensive video on how I stopped using social media with ADHD, then please let me know in the comment section below. 5. Planning my off time. So far in this video, I've talked a lot about how I optimize for my PhD work at Oxford, but I haven't really talked about having fun. We tend to plan our work down to the T, but rarely ever plan our fun time. So one of the great ways I've been making the most out of every week at Oxford is by planning my off time. I'm married, and it's very easy to not give this part of my life enough time. So alongside planning for my work, I like to plan at least one thing for my wife and I to look forward to in the week. This can be something small or a weekend away. It just means we have one thing in our week that we can look forward to and keeps me focused, knowing I have to get all my work done before the week is out to really make sure I'm able to unwind and enjoy myself during the weekend. So we talked about the 5 strategies I use to make the most out of my week as a PhD student at Oxford University with ADHD. I take every week as it comes. No week in life is guaranteed, but by breaking my life down into weekly chunks, I can stop myself feeling overwhelmed at Oxford and stay on top of my ADHD. Make sure you subscribe for more videos on the systems and gadgets I use to make small 1% gains with ADHD at Oxford and as a medical doctor in the UK's National Health Service. Thank you for watching. Till next time.